The village was a harsh mistress. Winter's icy grip clung fiercely, biting at any exposed skin. Feyre Archeron knew this well. 19 years old, she bore the weight of her family's survival, shouldering her bow and arrows each frigid dawn, disappearing into the woods. The forest was dangerous, especially in winter, but it was Feyre's lifeline. One day, she tracked a magnificent buck, only to encounter a wolf unlike any she had seen. Its eyes, twin points of golden fire, seemed to see straight through her. Pushing aside unease, she raised her bow and let the arrow fly. The kill should have exhilarated her, but a chilling certainty settled in her gut. She had killed something more than a wolf, something faerie. Ignoring the unease, she skinned the wolf and returned home. Before she reached her door, a shadow fell over her. A creature out of nightmare with eyes like molten gold confronted her. Terror seized Feyre. The creature's voice was like gravel grinding over stone. "You trespass! You steal! And now, girl, you will pay the price!" Feyre's mind raced, but she would not beg. "What do you want?" she whispered. The creature laughed. "Retribution! You have slain one of mine, a creature of Prythian bound by the treaty." "The penalty for killing fairy folk is death," the creature said. Feyre thought of her family. "However, there is another way. Come with me to Prythian. Live out your days in my court." To go there would mean leaving her family behind. But what choice did she have? The answer was clear. Feyre spared one last glance at her village. With a sinking heart, she stepped towards the wall of light. The creature spoke. "Do not fear. This is the boundary between worlds." He seized her arm, pulling her through. The world exploded in a riot of sensations, colors, energy, and scents of 1,000 flowers. Feyre staggered, her senses overwhelmed. Tamlin, High Lord of the Spring Court, watched her. "Welcome to Prythian," he said. Tamlin was no longer the monstrous beast, but a refined figure, except for the golden mask fused to his skin. "Come, we have a long journey ahead," he said, leading her deeper into this magical land. The journey was a blur. They arrived at Tamlin's manor, a palace of towers and archways. Tamlin dismounted, extending a hand to Feyre. "Welcome to my home," he said. As she took his hand, she felt a flicker of curiosity, hope, or perhaps just the need for a safe harbour in this strange new world. The next few days passed in a daze. Feyre, adrift in luxury, felt like a prisoner in a gilded cage. Tamlin treated her more as a guest, engaging her in conversation. She learned he was the High Lord of the Spring Court, burdened by the Blight, a creeping darkness threatening Prythian. "A curse I'm bound to fight," he said. Lucian, Tamlin's companion, provided a distraction. Sharp-tongued and funny, he teased Feyre about her human customs. Their banter became a source of comfort. One afternoon, Feyre stumbled upon Lucian in the library. "Lost again?" he asked. "It's a rather large house," she retorted. "A dangerous place for a lost human," he said. Lucian's words struck a chord. Feyre yearned for freedom and answers. One day, she found a massive oak door, locked but humming with energy. That night, she returned and found it unlocked. Inside, she discovered ancient tomes and artifacts. She had stumbled upon something forbidden. She could feel it in her bones. "What are you doing here?" Tamlin's voice cut through the silence. "I was just curious," Feyre stammered. "This is forbidden territory," Tamlin growled. "This curse," Feyre whispered. "It has something to do with this room, doesn't it?" Tamlin's silence spoke volumes. She had stumbled upon a truth he was desperate to keep hidden. Silence hung heavy. Tamlin's outburst revealed a darkness beneath his controlled demeanour. Feyre felt fear and betrayal. "Why keep this from me?" she choked out. "It is not for you to know," Tamlin said. But Feyre was tired of being kept in the dark. She needed to understand the curse and the blight threatening Prythian. The days that followed were strained. Feyre found herself withdrawing, seeking solace in the vast library. Anywhere she could escape the weight of Tamlin's unspoken secrets. Lucien, ever observant, seemed to sense her turmoil. He offered glimpses into the history of Prythian, the intricate web of alliances and rivalries. Feyre, captivated by his words, learned of the Night Court, shrouded in darkness, and the Summer Court, ruled by a cruel High Lord. A darkness is spreading, a taint upon the land. Its purpose is to destroy all that is good and pure in Prythian. Feyre's dreams became haunted by visions of a creeping darkness. Twisted creatures with eyes like burning coals, forests once vibrant and alive, reduced to skeletal husks, and always the sense of an unseen presence, malevolent and powerful, watching her, waiting for her. She tried to push the dreams aside, to focus on the beauty that still surrounded her. The gardens, bursting with blooms of impossible colours, the laughter of the spring court's fairies, their wings shimmering like rainbows in the sunlight. But the shadow of the Blight loomed large, a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the safety of Tamlin's wards. One evening, unable to bear the suffocating atmosphere of the manor any longer, Feyre slipped away into the forest. The air was cool and damp, the scent of pine needles and damp earth filling her senses. She wandered aimlessly, her thoughts a tangled mess of fear and frustration. She stumbled upon a clearing, the remnants of a once thriving grove. The trees were withered and grey, their branches bare and twisted. In the centre stood a single rosebush, its once vibrant blooms now blackened and dry. As Feyre watched, a single tear of blood rolled down one of the thorns, leaving a dark stain on the parched earth. A sob escaped Feyre's lips, a raw, primal sound born of fear and despair. This was the Blight's handiwork, a stark reminder of its power to corrupt and destroy. And Tamlin, for all his strength and power, seemed powerless to stop it. As the weeks turned into months, Feyre found herself caught between wonder and dread. The beauty of Prythian continued to amaze her, its magic seeping into her very being. She spent hours exploring the sprawling forests, marvelling at the strange and wondrous creatures that crossed her path. Yet the threat of the Blight hung over everything, a dark undercurrent to the court's vibrant life. One clear night, as she stood with Tamlin on a balcony overlooking the spring court, the vastness of the land spread out before her like a shimmering tapestry. Feyre realized the depth of her predicament. It's more than just magic and beauty, isn't it? It's life itself, and it's dying. She might have come to Prythian a captive, but she would not stand idly by and watch it fall. The tension between Feyre and Tamlin simmered, a quiet storm that threatened to break at any moment. Though they avoided discussing the secrets and the Blight, their interactions grew more layered, more charged with unspoken words and lingering glances. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the gardens in a golden glow, Feyre and Tamlin found themselves alone. The silence stretched between them, heavy with the things left unsaid. Tamlin's presence was a tangible force beside her, his every movement echoing with restrained power. "Why do you hide so much from me?" Feyre asked, her voice breaking the quiet. She turned to look at him, her eyes searching his masked face for any sign of the man beneath. Tamlin sighed, a sound filled with weariness and sorrow. "It's not about hiding, Feyre. It's about protection. Some truths are too dangerous. They can twist your mind, break your spirit if you let them." Feyre shook her head, frustration bubbling to the surface. "But I'm stronger than you think. I can handle the truth, Tamlin. I need to understand what's happening here, what's happening to you, to your people." Tamlin's eyes, those golden orbs that seemed to hold so many secrets, softened. "Maybe you can," he conceded, "but some things are better discovered in their own time. Trust me, Feyre. Trust that I'm doing this to keep you safe." The conversation left Feyre with more questions than answers, but it also planted a seed of trust. She could see the burden Tamlin carried, the weight of his responsibilities, and though she still harboured doubts, she began to see him not as her captor but as a protector, a ruler ensnared by forces beyond his control. Curiosity, however, was a relentless beast, and Feyre's need for answers only grew stronger. She spent hours in the library poring over ancient texts, trying to piece together the fragments of the curse. The more she learned, the more she realized how deep and insidious the Blight's roots were. One night, unable to sleep, Feyre found herself drawn to the secret room she had discovered earlier. The door, heavy and foreboding, seemed to call to her. With a deep breath, she pushed it open and stepped inside, the dim light casting eerie shadows on the walls. The room was filled with the scent of old parchment and a sense of timelessness. Feyre ran her fingers over the spines of the books, her mind racing with possibilities. Somewhere in here, she was sure, lay the key to understanding the curse, to breaking it. Her eyes landed on an ancient tome, its cover worn and faded, but still legible. She pulled it from the shelf, its weight reassuring in her hands. As she leafed through the pages, she found references to a powerful fairy queen, a being shrouded in mystery and fear. The queen's curse had bound the High Lords, trapping them in a cycle of suffering and despair. Feyre's heart pounded as she read. The Blight was not just a plague, it was a manifestation of the queen's wrath, a dark force that fed on fear and pain. To break the curse, to defeat the Blight, would require more than just strength. It would require sacrifice. As Feyre closed the book, she felt a chill run down her spine. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but she knew she had to continue. For Tamlin, for the Spring Court, and for herself. The secrets of the curse had begun to unravel, and with them, the first glimmers of hope. The days that followed were a delicate dance of trust and doubt. Feyre and Tamlin's relationship deepened, filled with moments of tenderness and understanding. Yet the spectre of the curse and the Blight remained ever present. One evening, a grand ball was held in the manor, a rare moment of celebration. Feyre, dressed in a gown of shimmering gold, felt like a different person. As she stood on the edge of the dance floor, Tamlin approached. "May I have this dance?" he asked. Feyre nodded, her heart fluttering. As Tamlin led her onto the dance floor, the music swelled. For a moment it felt as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. But as the night wore on, the weight of their unspoken fears pressed down on them. Feyre could see the strain in Tamlin's eyes. She wanted to ease his burden, but the secrets that lay between them made it difficult. As the ball drew to a close, Feyre and Tamlin found themselves alone on the balcony. Tamlin's gaze was distant, lost in thoughts Feyre could only guess at. "I know you're hiding something," Feyre said, "but I'm here, Tamlin. I want to help." Tamlin turned to her, his eyes filled with a mixture of pain and gratitude. "It's not that simple, Feyre. There are things you cannot understand, dangers you cannot imagine. But know this, I would do anything to keep you safe." The words hung between them, a promise and a warning. Feyre knew that the road ahead would be treacherous, but she also knew that she could not turn back. She had come too far, learned too much. She would stand by Tamlin, no matter the cost. Amidst the turmoil, Feyre found solace in her art. Painting was her refuge, a way to express emotions she couldn't put into words. In Prythian, surrounded by magic, her creativity flourished. Her paintings captured Prythian's essence, vibrant life, and creeping darkness. One afternoon, Tamlin entered the studio, watching her in silence. "You have a gift," he said quietly. "Your art speaks to the soul." Feyre realized her paintings were more than art. They were a weapon against the darkness. Together, they would face the Blight, ready to reclaim their world. A sense of foreboding permeated the Spring Court. Whispers of the Blight grew louder, more insistent. Even the vibrant colours of the gardens seemed muted, as if the land itself held its breath. Feyre, her senses attuned to the currents of magic, felt a shift, a summoning. One cool evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised orange and violet, a raven arrived. It landed on Feyre's windowsill, its black eyes gleaming with an intelligence that was unnerving. In its beak, it held a scroll, sealed with the emblem of the High Lords. With trembling fingers, Feyre unrolled the parchment. The words, written in an elegant script, seemed to writhe on the page as she read. A summons from the High Lords of Prythian. Her presence was demanded at the Night Court. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through her. The Night Court, a place of shadows and whispers, ruled by the most powerful and enigmatic of the High Lords. What could they possibly want with her? Tamlin, his expression grim, confirmed her fears. "It's the curse, Feyre," he said, his voice heavy with a resignation she'd never heard before. "It's drawing you into its web." The journey to the Night Court was shrouded in secrecy and shadowed by danger. Tamlin, bound by the ancient laws that governed the High Lords, could not accompany her. He entrusted her safety to Lucien, his one good eye reflecting the concern he couldn't quite mask. "Be careful, Feyre," he said, his voice low as they stood before the swirling vortex that marked the border between their courts. "The Night Court is not like spring. Trust no one." Their path led them through ancient forests, the trees twisted and gnarled, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and wild. Creatures, their eyes glowing in the darkness, watched their passage, their silence more unnerving than any growl. Feyre, despite her fear, found herself captivated by the raw power of this untamed magic. It pulsed around her, a living entity that both terrified and exhilarated. This was the heart of Prythian, the source of its magic, and she was being drawn deeper into its embrace. The Night Court was everything Feyre had feared and more. A sprawling fortress of black stone, it rose from the barren landscape like a jagged tooth, its towers piercing the inky sky. An oppressive silence hung over everything, broken only by the mournful cry of a distant bird. Lucien, his expression grim, led her through a labyrinth of corridors, the air thick with the scent of blood and magic. They were finally ushered into a vast hall, its walls lined with weapons that gleamed with an unnatural light. At the far end, seated on a throne of obsidian, sat Rhysand, High Lord of the Night Court. He was breathtakingly beautiful, his features sharp and elegant, his hair as black as the wings that folded behind him. But his beauty was a thing of shadows, a dangerous allure that hid a power that was both terrifying and seductive. His eyes, a mesmerizing violet, seemed to see straight through her, stripping away her defenses. "Welcome, Feyre, darling," he drawled, his voice a silken caress that sent shivers down her spine. "To my court, to your destiny?" The trials began almost immediately. Rhysand, his motives shrouded in mystery, subjected Feyre to tests of strength, cunning, and will. He pushed her to her limits, forcing her to confront her deepest fears and hidden strengths. And as she navigated this dangerous new world, she began to unravel the truth of the curse and her role in breaking it. Deep within the bowels of the Night Court, hidden from the eyes of the world, Feyre came face to face with the source of the Blight, the Faerie Queen. She was everything Rhysand was and more. Beautiful, terrifying, consumed by a darkness that threatened to consume all of Prythian. "You cannot defeat me, girl," the Queen hissed, her voice like silk over broken glass. "You are nothing but a pawn in a game you do not understand." But Feyre refused to be a pawn. She had come too far, fought too hard to surrender to this darkness. She had discovered a strength within herself, a power that even the Faerie Queen couldn't extinguish, the power of love, the power of free will, the power to choose her own destiny. "I am Feyre Archeron," she said, her voice ringing with a newfound strength, "and I will not let you win." The battle had begun. The Feyre who entered Prythian was but a shadow of the woman she was becoming. She had arrived a captive, a frightened girl forced to atone for a crime she didn't understand. The weight of responsibility for her human family, the burden of survival in a harsh and unforgiving world, had shaped her into a creature of instinct and resilience. Prythian, with its seductive magic and lurking dangers, had tested her in ways she could never have imagined. The opulence of the Spring Court, the subtle manipulations of its courtiers, the ever-present threat of the Blight, all forced her to confront her own vulnerabilities, her own desires. Yet, amidst the trials and tribulations, a remarkable transformation had begun to take root. The frightened girl was blossoming into a courageous young woman. The weight of her past, while never forgotten, no longer defined her. The instincts that had once guided Feyre in the human world, the skills honed in the unforgiving wilderness, were now tempered by the magic of Prythian. Under Lucien's tutelage, she trained, her body growing strong and agile. She learned to wield not just a bow and arrow, but the raw power that thrummed within her. She discovered a world beyond the confines of her village, beyond the limitations of her human life. The magic of Prythian, once frightening and alien, began to sing to her soul, awakening a power she never knew she possessed. But this awakening came at a price. Betrayal and loss cut deep, leaving scars that ran deeper than any blade. She faced impossible choices, her loyalty tested, her heart torn between two worlds. And yet, with each challenge, Feyre rose stronger, her resolve hardening like steel. She learned that true strength lay not just in physical prowess, but in the courage to embrace vulnerability, to fight for what she believed in, even when all hope seemed lost. The summons to the Night Court marked a turning point. No longer a captive of circumstance, Feyre found herself at the heart of a struggle for the very soul of Prythian. The Blight, a manifestation of ancient darkness, threatened to consume everything she had come to love. Rhysand, the enigmatic High Lord of the Night Court, held the key to defeating the Blight, to breaking the curse that bound Tamlin and the other High Lords. But his allegiance was a dangerous game, his motives shrouded in shadow and secrecy. As Feyre delved deeper into the mysteries of this court of thorns and roses, she realized that the fate of Prythian rested on her shoulders. The choices she made, the sacrifices she was willing to endure, would determine the destiny of this magical world. And so, armed with a newfound strength and an unyielding determination, Feyre embraced her role in this epic battle between light and darkness. The journey ahead would be perilous, filled with trials and tribulations that would test her to her very core. But one thing was certain: Feyre Archeron, the girl who once hunted to survive, was now a warrior, a queen in the making. Her story, the story of a court of thorns and roses, had only just begun.